1,
2, 3, 4,
5,
6.
What could be more American than a chocolate chip cookie? In 1930, Ruth Wakefield and her husband owned the Toll House Inn bed and breakfast, and they often made meals for their guests. At night, Ruth would make desserts to serve to her guests. One night she was making sugar cookies, and instead of melting the chocolate and mixing it into the mix, she broke the pieces up, figuring it would melt into the cookie and make it an entire chocolate cookie. Well, instead, what happened is what we now know as the chocolate chip cookie. And it became very popular with her guests that they asked for these cookies again and again. Eventually, she published this recipe in newspapers and magazines, and then she eventually sold the rights to Nestle to be able to use her chocolate chip recipe. And for more information on the history of the chocolate chip cookie, you can go to kitchenproject.com. My family loves chocolate chip cookies, and we found a special family recipe that we like to use to make chocolate chip cookies. To make these cookies, you will need to gather the ingredients together, to mix the dough together, and then bake the cookies. The ingredients for my chocolate chip cookies include rolled oats, flour, sugar, walnuts, brown sugar, salt, baking soda, baking powder, eggs, chocolate chip, margarine, and butter. You also need several equipment pieces to be able to mix this together. So a mixer, you can use a hand mixer as well, or a bowl with a spatula. You're also going to need measuring cups and measuring spoons, bowls of various sizes to put the ingredients in, a bowl to mix the final products together. We also need a cookie sheet and parchment paper, and a knife. I'm going to be using gloves today to be able to mix together the final ingredients for sanitary purposes. Now, I buy my supplies at Kroger, and it cost me $22.31 to purchase these supplies, which will make 2 batches of cookies, and each batch of cookies makes approximately 40 large cookies. So, okay. We're going to show you the step-by-step process that we're going to take to do making the cookies. First, you're going to take your butter and your margarine, and you're going to put it in your mixer, and you're going to mix it together until the two are blended together. And a lot of times you're going to have to scrape down the sides still as you're working through this. Now, to the butter and the margarine, and let me pass out to you, Josh, if you'll pass that around. These are the recipe ingredients, since it's a larger ingredients list that you can follow along with. Now, on the brown sugar, you want to make sure that it's packed together like this to where it becomes more in the shape of the measuring cup that you're using. But you're going to mix together the sugar and the brown sugar and mix these in to the bowl with the butter mixture that we just made. And you're going to turn on your mixer again and mix these together until they combine. Scraping down the sides as you need to be able to get these ingredients to combine together. Now, the last step of this part is to mix in the eggs. And you mix these in one at a time, and this is actually going to change the physical consistency of the mixture, of the wet ingredients is what they call this part. Now, I'm going to speed this up a little bit here, and I'm going to take a second to scrape down my sides so that all of that mixture can get together. Now, like I said, this is what we call the wet ingredients. Now, in a separate bowl, you're going to take your flour, your baking soda, your baking powder, and your salt, and you're going to mix that together using your spoon. You're going to mix those ingredients till they're thoroughly mixed in here. Now, a little bit of the mixture at a time, you're going to pour your dry ingredients together with your wet ingredients. Because I'm using a mixer like this, I like to pulse it a bit so that it does not spray up and get flour all over. Now, continue to mix this in. And one last little part here. into my mixer. Pulse it. See, it likes to make it fly everywhere, but that's okay because there's going to be a lot of mess to clean up after because that's all part of the fun of chocolate chip cookies. So, again, I'm going to have to scrape down the sides just to be able to get all of the ingredients together in here in making this dough. And the dough should be kind of sticky still, but at the same time, it's going to be firm and stay together. And you can see the consistency that we have here is still a little bit, it's firm enough that it stays together, but it's sticky. So, okay, now we're going to take this final mixing bowl, and in that we're going to add together our oats and our walnuts and our chocolate chips. And in this, I like to make sure these are all nice and stirred together prior to mixing in the nougat. Okay, now taking these ingredients, you're going to mix the one into the other until they are thoroughly combined. And once you do, you're going to take and scoop out, I like to use a 1/3 cup measuring cup and scoop it out and stick it onto the cookie sheet, where each cookie has some, a nice shape given to it. And this is the final product that we have with the cookies. Okay, so in conclusion, making cookies from scratch can be a fun family activity. It's cost effective and they taste delicious. By putting together a few pantry staples, you can produce a delicious, chewy chocolate chip cookie. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you use chunks or chips?
Well, actually, once you get to this point where you're mixing together the various ingredients here, you can do pretty much anything other than you have to have the oats in there. At that point, you can pretty much add anything. When it's holidays, I like to take things like colored M&Ms and things like that to put in there, and it makes them very colorful. You can add food coloring to the dough when you finish making this dough. You can add food coloring to make the cookies green for St. Patrick's Day. You can add mint to it and things like that. We've really experimented a lot with it to make the cookies kind of fit whatever, but you kind of have, this is the basis to whatever kind of cookie you want to make at that point, but we like to make sure that we have the dough and then the oats. Anybody else?
Why do you use both margarine and butter?
Margarine and butter are both very important, and some people often think that you can replace the, that you can just put just butter in because they don't want to use margarine, and Crisco, things like that are those lards. It's important to use that though because that's what gives the cookie its structure. It's what gives the cookie a lot of flavor and the chewiness as well. Otherwise, if it's just butter, the cookie's really